Hello and welcome to the Tennis Menu Daily US Open shows. This is something that we're really excited to bring you over the next 2 weeks. Val Febbo here with you. I'm going to be taking you through everything that's happening over Flushing Meadows over the next 2 weeks for the tennismenu.com. For all your tennis needs, head to the website. News, skills, and the best coaching you could ask for by this man who's going to join me every day for the next 2 weeks. The coach to the stars, the best high-performance coach in the land. His name is Marc Sophoulis. Marc, how are you going?
I'm very well, Val, and that is too big of an intro for someone like me. Thanks very much for coming on board and obviously doing this. It's a great opportunity with the US Open right around the corner, and tennis has been at a standstill for so long, and it's so exciting to actually be back.
It is, and I honestly didn't think that we'd have the US Open back. I thought we'd be going straight to Europe, and I thought we should have been going straight to Europe. Nevertheless, here we are. We're not in America. We'd like to be, but we're in our humble abodes in Melbourne and over Zoom and discussing everything and as per lockdown life. But thank God we've got some tennis to talk about, and thank God there is some tennis back because it's been a lean few months, and it was good to have some big action in Cincinnati over the last week. But there's a bit of breaking news. We're going to do a bit of a draw analysis today, Marc, where we're going to go through the men's and women's draws and who we think is going to win and conquer the Billie Jean King Tennis Centre in 2020. Both defending champions are out, Rafael Nadal and Bianca Andreescu. It's going to open the draw up very nicely, we hope, on both sides. But a bit of news to start the show. Benoit Paire, the enigmatic Frenchman who I do love, has tested positive for COVID-19. L'Equipe reported that last night. Caroline Garcia confirming it to The Guardian, and the US Open statement overnight. They've confirmed that he's been withdrawn from the US Open. So a player has tested positive for COVID-19 at the US Open and has been withdrawn from the tournament. That player is asymptomatic. The USTA, together with its medical advisors and infectious disease specialists from the Mount Sinai Health System, confirmed a positive test result for a player in accordance with the New York State Department of Health requirements and in alignment with the CDC guidelines and the tournament health and safety protocols. The player has been advised that they must isolate for at least 10 days. In addition, contact tracing has been initiated to determine if anybody must quarantine for 14 days. So that, of course, has come out as Benoit Paire, and he's out of the US Open. He'll be replaced by Marcel Granollers, who will take on Kamil Majak in the first round. So tough news, but Paire did withdraw from his Cincinnati opener against Borna Coric, down 6-love at 1-love. Ironically, Coric has also had the disease.
Isn't it interesting? Like, what's going to happen from here? That's my big question: is what will actually happen to the rest of the draw? Who has he been in contact with? Has he been around the bubble? Has he had a fitness trainer around him? Has that fitness trainer worked with somebody else? That contact tracing is going to be a really interesting part over the next 24 to 48 hours to see whether or not any other players may have to withdraw from the US Open, which is only 24 hours away.
I know, and this is the last thing that the USTA would have wanted, the absolute last thing. Things were going so well through Cincinnati. There weren't really many scares or anything along those lines. Kei Nishikori didn't go to New York. He tested positive twice in Florida. Everything looked like it was going really well up until this. So who knows what we're going to get? Will we actually get a tournament in the end, depending on who Benoit has been in contact with? Of course, you'd assume his coach, you'd assume trainer, physio, however many people he's got up there. It's worrying. It is worrying. So fingers crossed that not many people have been infected and that they've been adhering to all the strict guidelines. That masks are mandatory in the bubble. People are carrying around their own balls. They have to carry their bags everywhere. You can't leave it in the locker room or anything like that. So they're very strict. All the players seem pretty happy with what's going on in the bubble at the moment, but it's concerning. Definitely concerning to say the least.
Absolutely. And this is the interesting part: is what's going to happen from here. The French and the Australian Open are actually looking at what the protocols have been, what's actually taken place, and how the USTA run their event, and see if there's a blueprint for them moving forward. If something occurs here at the US Open, does that put the French Open at jeopardy? I saw overnight, I think there were 7,000 cases overnight in France. Does that mean the French Open's now at jeopardy? Who knows? Obviously, everything's the jury's still out. The questions are going to be around. But obviously, the next 24 hours at the US Open will be a very interesting time to see what happens with Benoit Paire and the like.
I think so. And the French Open wanted to play the tournament with crowds. I don't see that happening at all. And Italy's preparing for a second wave. There's a tournament in Rome the week before the French Open. Not sure how any of this is going to go ahead. I said that 3 months ago about going to America. We're here. It is happening. So we'll see what happens. Another little tidbit from the weekend, not really a tidbit, it's quite big. Novak Djokovic stepping away from the ATP Players Council with Vasek Pospisil and John Isner to create a players' union to look after players better. Roger and Rafa both have come out against it, as have the ATP and a lot of other global tennis bodies. And I must say, the premise of the union I agree with, to look after the players better, because it's very top heavy. But to do it at a time like this when unity is needed, and there's no women in this union, a time of unity is needed in 2020. And Djokovic has just essentially just put everything aside and said, you know what, screw everybody, I'm going for it. And not sure I'm a fan of that.
Yeah, and it's a very interesting time, as you said, to go down this pathway. I thought through COVID-19 might have been a great opportunity for the ATP and WTA to combine, maybe along with the ITF, to create or form one allegiance together and create a really unified group. But now with this all happening, with Novak stepping away, with Vasek Pospisil and going in their own direction, where does this leave the unity of the sport? That's what's my concern at this point in time. But time will tell. Hopefully this doesn't detract from a really good US Open. And obviously Nadal and Federer aren't fans of it. Let's see what happens. I mean, at this point in time, no one really knows how it's going to work. But, we've got a Grand Slam to play. It's just around the corner, and hopefully we get a good one at that.
Sure is. And just quickly before we do go on to the draw, the Bryan brothers retiring. I know that's a big piece of your coaching career, Mark, working with them for the last 7 Australian Opens. And disappointingly, they didn't really get to go out on a high playing any Grand Slams this year. I think they played the Oz Open, but the US Open was going to be their final slam, but they announced their retirement effective immediately. They're just what a scintillating pair, and the bond between them, I don't think that's ever going to be recreated or ever duplicated, and those records will stand the test of time, it seems.
Yeah, there'll never be another Bryan brothers, absolutely. I had the great fortune of being part of their team at the Australian Open for 7 years, and they're just great guys as well as great players. They'll leave a legacy that's not just record-breaking, but it's also 14 years as the fan favourite doubles team is, something that I think they'll hold very true to themselves, that they were great to the people and, great role models around the grounds of the tennis. And they're amazing guys. I've had a great relationship with them. Literally only a few hours ago, Bob just messaged me back. I sent him a nice congratulatory message. And, I just love those guys, what they've brought to this sport, the energy. They changed the doubles, the doubles scene. They were just phenomenal. The way that they could connect without even talking was just amazing. And being brothers, it wasn't all smooth sailing all the time, but they did have a lot of fun on the court. And, they won 16 Grand Slams together. They won a gold medal. They won a Davis Cup. They did it all in the game. And, as you said, I don't think that record will ever be broken. Mike went on to play some Grand Slams with Jack Sock when Bob had his hip surgery, and won another 2 Grand Slams. And I think Bob's a bit dirty on him, but at the end of the day, you've got to continue on. And they were amazing and just phenomenal athletes, phenomenal people, and they'll be dearly missed in the sport of tennis.
Yeah, well, when you're injured, when your partner's injured, I guess the show must go on. And the show did go on. Mike Bryan and Jack Sock forming a great partnership, I think, towards the end of 2017. So brilliantly done by the Bryan brothers, a phenomenal career. But the reason we are here the day before the US Open, Mark, is to discuss the draw. And I think looking at, we'll start with the women's draw, I think, because it's going to be so open with 6 of the top 10 women out and withdrawing before the tournament. No Barty, no Halep, no defending champion in Bianca Andreescu, to say the least. Karolina Pliskova has been world number 1 before. She's never won a slam. This must be her best chance. She's the top seed. She'll take on Annalena Kalinina, which is a bit of alliteration in that name, which I always like. But yeah, she opens her tournament against the Ukrainian, and the top quarter of the women's draw is fairly open. I'm not sure I think the winner is going to come from this quarter, but there could be a big chance for players to break through, especially Petra Martic, seeded 8th. That is something that completely escaped me when looking at this draw the first time. I didn't realize she was so highly ranked, and she's done really well, the Croatian, to get herself into such a great position. But Martic, the 8th seed here. Kristina Mladenovic is there, seeded 30th. Alison Risk is a bit of a risky matchup for anybody that could come in and play, pardon the pun. Yulia Putintseva there, seeded 23rd. Marketa Vondrasova, last year's French Open finalist, seeded 12th. Angelique Kerber also there. She'll take on Australian Isla Tomjanovic in the opening round. And Jennifer Brady, the Lexington champion, also there with CC Ballas and Caroline Garcia as dangerous floaters. So
yeah,
it's a tough draw.
It is. And, I look at Brady as a really tough contest for Pliskova in the third round. I think that's a really challenging one for her. Brady's in a bit of form, played some matches. Pliskova hasn't really hit her straps just yet. Whether she's, peaking for the US Open is another interesting one. But Angelique Kerber in that part of the draw, I mean, you can never discount the German. She's gritty. She'll hang in there. She'll play a lot of long matches, and she'll make it really tough in that quarter. So, Mladenovic, Kerber, Pliskova, I mean, with Brady risk as being your dangerous floaters, it's going to be a challenging part of the draw.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm excited to see who does get out of this one. And look, I'm not sure. Do you think the winner is coming from this quarter? Because I'm not convinced that it's got the depth to do so. Yes, Kerber's a dual Grand Slam champion, but I just don't think that she's going to be one to challenge a sort of maybe an Osaka or a Kvitova. We'll get to Osaka soon, but I think there's a lot of other players that can win this.
Yeah, as we talk about though, Val, I think the hardest thing with women's tennis is the predictability. There's so many individual Grand Slam winners over the last 30 or 40 Grand Slams, whereas the men's has been very predictable over time. This is going to be an interesting contest. I don't think someone in this part of the draw will come through as the winner, but there are some really dangerous players in this part of the draw that could. It wouldn't surprise us if they did get through because there's some previous Grand Slam champion there, and anything's possible.
Yeah, and you mentioned the predictability. It is so unpredictable, and that's why I think I'm really excited about the women's draw this year because I don't, and we'll get to Serena later, but I'm not sure she's going to equal Margaret Court at this tournament either. So it's really exciting. But the second quarter of the draw boasts Naomi Osaka, the 2018 champion and two-time Grand Slam champion, Camilla Giorgi, dangerous floater, Marta Kostyuk and Daria Kasatkina in the first round is massive, along with a US Open semi-finalist and two quarterfinals before that, Anastasia Sevastova. She'll take on Coco Gauff in the first round. That is popcorn if I've ever seen it. Magda Linette also seated in this section. Madison Inglis and Lizette Cabrera, the Aussie contingent. Danielle Collins and Annette Kontaveit will be really good as well. Collins is Grand Slam semi-finalist of the Australian Open in 2018. Kontaveit is always a dangerous player when you come up against her. Diana Yastremska, she needs to get a torrid 2020 behind her after that blackface saga a few months ago, where that was just really stupid, to say the least. Astra Sharma will play her in the first round. Kirsten Flipkins here as well in this part of the draw. She's always a dangerous floater. And Petra Kvitova. So in the quarterfinals of this quarter, we could see a rematch of the 2019 Australian Open final between Naomi Osaka and Petra Kvitova, which really excites me because watching Kvitova and Osaka play that match last year, simply phenomenal. So I'm excited about this quarter. The winner could well and truly come from it.
It is a dangerous part of the draw, this one here. And you've obviously, spoken about Osaka and Kvitova, who, I feel Osaka probably would go in favourite here, the way she was playing. But now with a little hamstring injury is why she pulled out of Cincinnati. Is she going to be in her best? It's going to be a challenging one for her. If she does have a bit of a tight hamstring, to be able to get through a Grand Slam, a 2-week tournament is really, really challenging. Kvitova's done it before. She's been there. She's strong. She's powerful. She can really hit you off the court. She's going to be an interesting player. For me, Coco Gauff's a really dangerous athlete. She could, at any stage, break through here, and this could be the tournament that she does go a little bit further than what she's done before. She has shown the glimpses. She has shown that she's capable, but is this the one that opens the door for Coco Gauff? For me, I think the winner comes from this quarter of the draw. Obviously, we're getting to the next part where I think there's a couple of dangerous players, but I think the winner from a talent perspective comes from this part of the draw, and who knows who it will be at this stage. Is it Osaka, is it Kvitova, or is it the youngster Coco Gauff?
Yeah, I do agree. I think the winner is going to come from this draw. And look, Osaka got smashed by Gauff at the Australian Open this year. And that matchup, and I think she beat her at the US Open last year too, or Osaka won. They did play there. So it's going to be that's going to be an unbelievable match. Should we get it? And fingers crossed that we do, because it's very, very exciting. We'll move on to quarter number 3, and Madison Keys, the 2017 finalist, headlines this quarter as the 7th seed. Lauren Davis and Eliza Cornet, good dangerous floater first round matchup. Zhang Shui there as well. Donna Vekic and Kristina Pliskova will be interesting. Garbine Muguruza, the Australian Open runner-up, also here, and a 2-time slam champion at that. Maria Sakkari is one that played really well. A massive win over Serena Williams in Cincinnati/New York. Bernarda Pera, very dangerous floater. Amanda Anisimova, also there, the 22nd seed, as is Sloane Stephens. She'll take on Mihaela Buzanescu. She's the 26th seed. Monica Puig and Serena Williams round out this quarter of the draw. Puig and Williams could be round 2 matchups, but geez, this part of the draw is just stacked with talent.
It's brutal. It is absolutely brutal. When I looked my eyes over this, it was interesting because you look at Keys, you look at Muguruza, you look at Serena, and then you throw in the names that you said, Sakkari and Anisimova, and I think it's going to be a real challenge. I think this part of the draw, they're all just going to knock each other out, and whoever's the last one standing, obviously, And this is a real challenge because I thought, for me, when I saw the 6 out of the top 10 players withdraw from the women's, I thought this is Serena's big opportunity. But being placed in this part of the draw, I'm now like, I don't think this is going to be the case. So, I think Muguruza might come through this, and I think from a talent perspective, she's definitely the one that does display the most, if not one of the most, huge amounts of talent in that draw. And Serena Williams, you can't discount her. I think this is a good opportunity for her, but it is a tough part of the draw. And playing Monica Puig in that second round is a brutal matchup.
Yeah, well, Puig, on her day, we know what she can do. Her only career title is an Olympic gold medal, which is, it's just unbelievable. Pardon?
Not a bad title.
No, not at all. Not at all. So, I still can't believe that your first career title, it's like Daniela Hunter-Kova. Her first career title was Indian Wells, and Puig is an Olympic gold. Puerto Rico's only ever gold medalist. It still stuns me. But what do you think? And this draw, I think the faster courts are going to suit a lot of players here. And who do you think it suits the most? Does it suit someone like a Madison Keys who belts the cover off the ball every time she hits it? Or does it suit Muguruza, who can use that counter-attacking style play that she's got and use her speed to try and get balls back and hit balls back with interest and use their opponent's pace?
Yeah, depending on how fast the courts are playing this year. I mean, generally, the faster courts in the women's game are going to suit the players that can utilize the ball speed and be able to absorb that and be able to utilize it back. So, prime example, Australian Open used to speed up the courts for Leighton Hewitt. Great counterpuncher. The faster the court, the more ball speed on. He was able to deflect and utilize his skill of absorption in the point. These courts here, I think, are very similar. In the female game, I think players like Muguruza are really going to strive and thrive on this sort of stuff, where if the ball is coming onto a racket, and Serena's got the ability to defend and play offensive. I think those players that have a bit more roundedness to their game and can play defense and offense are going to really hold themselves pretty strong in the draw. Obviously the big serve does help on a faster court, but the women's return of serve is just so strong and so compact that I think the return of players are a lot better off in the serve.
I think so as well. And we see that a lot in women's tennis. There's a lot more breaks of serve than we see in the men's. But I think my concern with Serena is her movement. And she struggled. She played a 2-hour, 48-minute match in her first hit out in Cincinnati, or the Cincy Open, which was held at the Billie Jean King Tennis Center. And then went to 3 against Sakkari and just ran out of puff. She's going to have an extra day break. We know that. But watching that makes me severely doubt whether she can actually back up at a slam now. And look, we've said that about her before. We've said it about Roger Federer before, and they both came out and proved us wrong. But I'm not sure with Serena that her movement is going to allow her to get this slam, because she's made 4 finals in the last 2 years. We can't forget that, and lost them all. And I'm starting to worry as to whether Serena might just fall one short of Margaret Court's record of 24. So I'm not sure what you think of that, whether she can win another slam, but this draw doesn't help.
It doesn't help. The draw is definitely very challenging for her. I think she's capable. There's no doubt about it. I think it's more of a mental perspective for her getting over that last hurdle. Physically, I think she's a pretty primed athlete. She knows what it takes to take it to that level. But, it's always been the last 4 times has been a real mental effort for her. And I feel like if she can overcome that and put behind her that she's going for a record and just play the tournament as it is and as it comes, I think she'll be a lot better off. And, I think she's prepared really well for this event. Been watching her, on social media. It looks like she's had a great preparation. Just whether or not she's ready for this, obviously the bubble, whether or not she's got her whole family around her the whole time, I'm not sure how that situation is. But that can play a big part as well on your mindset if you don't have your family. She's got a young child now, which makes it really challenging.
Yeah, no, it does. And yeah, I think those narratives, though, you're right, make for an interesting tournament. Fingers crossed we can see her go deep. And I was going to say that the crowd will get behind her, but no, they won't. Because there's going to be absolutely no crowd there at all, it was weird to say the least for Cincinnati, but I think I'm just glad that we've got some good quality tennis back. But final quarter of the women's draw. The top 2 matches here, the winner, and I hope we get the winner or the prospective winners and the favourites come through. Aryna Sabalenka versus Victoria Azarenka, round 2. A, what a matchup. B, get your earplugs out because the roof is coming off Arthur Ashe Stadium with the amount of decibels coming out of their mouths. It's gonna that one interests me in itself, but Taylor Townsend, dangerous floater. Kudamatova's in this part of the draw. Karolina Muchova versus Venus Williams, this part of the draw. Venus, who knows how many US Opens she has left. Sorana Cîrstea, she's a dangerous floater. Heather Watson versus Johanna Konta, the 9th seed. Elise Mertens is there too versus Laura Siegmund. Christina McNally. Kim Clijsters against Ekaterina Alexandrova. That match. Can Clijsters replicate what she did in her first comeback and win 2 US Opens? Ons Jabeur is here as well. Katerina Siniakova and Kai Kanepi. Vera Zvonareva is there too, along with Yanina Wickmeyer and Sophia Kenin, the 2nd seed. So this is kind of like a throwback part of the draw with Zvonareva, Clijsters, Venus, you name it, and Azarenka. But this one boasts so much talent as it is. This could go either way, like the first quarter, and also like the second. It's just all of them bursting with talent, but this one is probably one of the most open.
Yeah, I thought you were flicking back to the 80s there, mate. And I heard Venus and Zvonareva and Kim Clijsters. I think it was an interesting part of the draw. Azarenka's obviously back from having her child as well. So this is a really interesting part of the draw and very hard to predict. Johanna Konta is a super tennis player. I think she can go pretty deep. She's quite a good athlete in good form. Mertens is another one, but Azarenka's form at Cincinnati, who could put that past her?
Yeah,
Zvonareva and Clijsters will be an interesting one. I think, they're both of them obviously are probably past their prime, but anything is possible when you've been at that level of a slam before. It's possible. So we'll see what happens to that part of the draw. Definitely very open. Sophia Kenin's another one that, USA home crowd, I was going to say, but hometown. But I think she'll know the conditions really well, and obviously doing so well in Australia. I think she's primed for a really good couple of years ahead of her as well. So this is a very, very interesting part of the draw as well. This is a stacked half of the draw, Bell, and it wouldn't surprise me if we could go back to the future and maybe one of the old timers might come through in this one.
Be great to see. It would be an unbelievable story. But the all-important moment now is for us to give our picks for the tournament. And we'll start with the top quarter. Who have you got for that top quarterfinal matchup?
Yeah, well, throw a blanket over 64 players in that top half, mate. I think we can try and work out who's going to take that. We'll throw a blanket over and we'll pick one out and see who it is. But look, I think Osaka and Kvitova are my 2 from that top half of the draw. I think there's no doubt those are the 2 players that I can see getting right the way through to play each other in a quarterfinal, with one of them getting through to the final and playing off. There's no doubt they're probably two of the best players at the moment going around. But don't be surprised if Coco Gauff does knock one of them off somewhere. She's a super young athlete coming through. So at that part of the draw, I think one of those 2 will get through and play off in a semi-final there, and probably play off against. I still think it'll be either Pliskova or possibly Mladenovic getting through that top half of the draw. So we'll see how that one pans out.
Very nice. And I've got For the top quarter, I've got Kerber and Vondrasova taking each other on in the quarterfinal. And I've got Coco Gauff taking down Naomi Osaka in the third round, and she'll play Petra Kvitova in the quarterfinals. But I reckon it's going to be a Kvitova v Kerber semi on that top half of the draw, and I reckon Kvitova gets through to the final. So I agree with you there. But we'll go to the bottom half, and what do you see happening down there with those 64?
Well, I'd really like to see Muguruza play Serena in a quarterfinal. I think that would be unbelievable to watch. And I really think, and I really hope, Azarenka gets all the way through. She'll have to play Konta, which is going to be a really challenging one for her. But I think down the bottom of the draw, Sophia Kenin, I think, is my pick to get right the way through down the bottom there. So I'm thinking, and I reckon there might be Serena Williams versus Sophia Kenin semi-final down the bottom half of the draw, which would be an All-American, young versus old. Be a great little intro to the future, maybe, for Sophia Kenin.
Fantastic. And I've got, I reckon it's going to be a Muguruza v Sakari quarterfinal in the top half of, or the top quarter of the bottom half. And then in the bottom quarter, I'm going very old school here. I'm going Johanna Konta v Kim Clijsters. I just think Clijsters, with the way she played against Muguruza in Dubai, lost it and was 6-2, 7-6. So she pushed the Australian Open finalist to a tiebreak in her first tournament back. That's almost unheard of. So I think, and she played really well in the world team tennis as well. So you can't count out. I think she's a 3-time US Open champion as well. So you can't count her out. So I reckon it's going to be Kim Clijsters v Johanna Konta quarterfinal, and then I reckon in the semis it'll be Muguruza v Konta, which excites me greatly. But your matchup for the final, Mark, who are they and who wins?
Oh, gee, you're putting me on the spot here.
That's what I like to do.
I'm going to go Kenin versus Kvitova, and I think Kvitova will take it out.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going Petra Kvitova as well, but I've got her defeating Johanna Konta in the final. I reckon she had a really good tournament in Cincinnati in the same courts. And yeah, I just think she's a really big chance of going all the way and making a final, but Kvitova will be too strong. And to add to that, she's won 2 Wimbledons. Be nice to get to see her get a second, a victory slam at a second event. So fantastic stuff there from you, Mark, and the best analysis in the game. That's what we love. But the men's draw. Now, this one is a lot less open, you would say, with some of the form of one particular man, especially who hasn't lost yet this year. His name is Novak Djokovic, and he sits right on top of that draw. He said he was sick in Cincinnati, and he seems to say he's sick a lot, but always seems to come out and win. So I'm not sure what's going on there. But he'll take on Damir Dzumhur in round 1 on the top side of the top half of the men's draw. Kyle Edmund also there as a dangerous floater, and Jan-Lennard Struff will play Djokovic in the third round should he get there. Djokovic destroyed him in Cincinnati, and that's the only word I can say for that. Destroyed him. Also in that side of that quarter of the draw, John Isner v Steve Johnson in the first round. Also, Denis Shapovalov against Sebastian Korda in the opener as well. Shapovalov seeded 12th, which will be his highest seeding at a Grand Slam. He played really well against Marin Cilic in the opener of Cincinnati as well. Gilles Simon there as well, always a dangerous floater when he's unseeded. Taylor Fritz, Filip Krajinovic, who was awesome last week, should have beaten Milos Raonic and gotten through to the semis of Cincinnati as well. Marco Chiron against the Aussie Mark Polmans. Lloyd Harris and Marco Cecchinato also there. Cecchinato, obviously a Grand Slam semi-finalist at the French in 2018. Rounding out that quarter, David Goffin against the giant 6'11" Riley Opelka, who they played at the Oz Open 2 years ago, and it was an epic 5-setter in the way of the Belgium. So that one's interesting in itself. There's one clear-cut favourite, but the rest of it's pretty open.
Yeah, as we spoke about before, the most predictable game is the men's game at the moment. Obviously, the top 3 have just dominated the game for such a period of time. With Nadal and Federer out, it's very hard to see Novak Djokovic lose this US Open. It's going to take an almighty effort somewhere along the line for someone to knock him off. But you're correct. I think the real dangerous floater is Opelka. I think he's going to be very challenging to play on the bouncy US Open courts. And, you know, he's very hard to break. He's similar to John Isner. John Isner and Opelka are both in that quarter of the draw. Isner does have to play Djokovic in the fourth round, which is going to be a real challenge for him. But, it's very hard for me not to see Novak Djokovic get all the way through to the semi-final there.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. As much as I would like to see an upset, I don't think it's coming. And I think that's going to come later on in the draw. I think it's going to have to take something pretty special to beat him. But who knows? We could see it. But the second quarter of the draw is really interesting. And the two main seeds here are Stefanos Tsitsipas seeded 4th and Alexander Zverev seeded 5th. So this one excites me greatly. And Borna Coric also here as well, seeded 27th. Dusan Lajovic seeded 18th. He had a great start to the year at the ATP Cup and the Australian Open. Jordan Thompson for the Aussies listening, he's there as well against Stefano Travaglia of Italy. Mikhail Kukushkin, bit of a dangerous floater there. Christian Garin seeded 13th. And Diego Schwartzman, we love little Diego, seeded 9th, 5'7". You see the footage of him and Riley Opelka at Cincinnati. It was 1'4" of difference in height. And you could really see it, Mark. It was like a father congratulating his son after a match.
It was incredible to watch. And, he's obviously a little pocket rocket, Diego Schwartzman, and love watching him play. Just love his guts and determination. He's a super athlete. And this is a very open part of the draw. It's going to be quite interesting. And, you did mention Alexander Zverev. His first round match is against Kevin Anderson. And that, to me, is an absolute mouth-watering matchup, which I actually think is going to be the upset of the tournament straight off the bat. I think Kevin Anderson could get through and beat Zverev to open up that bottom part of the draw and leave it wide open for, I think, Stefanos Tsitsipas to get right the way through to a semi-final.
Yeah, I do agree. I think I think Zverev could be in for an early exit. And have you seen who his opponent would be in the second round should Zverev get through, or Anderson? Paolo Lorenzi or Brandon Nakashima? Nakashima was born in 2001. Paolo Lorenzi was born in 1981. There's a 20-year difference between the two.
Incredible.
And Nakashima is playing someone that's twice his age. So that one's I think that's a hilarious matchup. And Lorenzi's been around for so long. I'd like to see him get one last second round or two before he does retire. Jack Sock, also a dangerous floater in this side of the draw, as is Adrian Manarino, seeded 32, and Hubert Hurkacz. But I do echo your sentiments towards Stefanos Tsitsipas. I reckon he's going to be very difficult to beat, especially with how he played in this week's lead-up tournament. But the third quarter of the draw, Matteo Berrettini headlines it here, 6th seed. He'll take on Go Saito of Japan in the opener. Casper Ruud is also seeded there. He'll take on Mackenzie McDonald in the opener. McDonald can perform miracles when he wants to, so fingers crossed we see an exciting matchup there. Marcel Granollers replaces Benoit Paire in the draw to take on Kamil Marichak. Salvatore Caruso against James Duckworth. Duckworth, that draw just opens up for him massively to possibly get a third round appearance against Andrei Rublev, who's seeded 10th. I can see him going far. Rematch of the epic Australian Open third round between Grigor Dimitrov and Tommy Paul will be replicated in the opening round here. Paul obviously won that 7-6 in the 5th at Melbourne Park this year. And Martin Fucsovics could play Dimitrov again after he destroyed him in Cincinnati last week. Francis Tiafoe against Andre Sepi. Old v young, kind of there. I'm excited about that one. Johnny Millman against Nicolas Basilashvili. I hope Johnny gets through because that is a draw that could open up for him if he plays his best. Guido Pella seeded 29th. He's in the draw after there might have been a possible chance of him missing it with his physio getting coronavirus or testing positive before becoming negative. Feliciano Lopez also here. We love him. He's still going at 38 years old. Chris O'Connell there as well against Laszlo Djed of Serbia, and Daniil Medvedev rounding out the quarter. Finalist last year, could have beaten Nadal. Can he go one better in 2020?
Well, I think he's going to get all the way through. That's my tip here in the bottom half of the draw is Medvedev to play more than likely Djokovic in the final. I think Medvedev's got what it takes to win multiple Grand Slams. Unbelievable defense, reads the game so well, counterpunches unbelievably well, but can step up and play offensive when needed. So he has got the variety of games to be able to do it. Does he have the temperament? Does he have the temperament to hold out Novak Djokovic in a final? If he does get there, it's obviously the start of this tournament's interesting because a lot of players have had interrupted obviously matches heading into this. So usually you can judge on form. Players can really time their run. there's no way people can time their run here. There hasn't been enough matches to be able to do that. So this is going to be a very interesting part of the draw. I think Medvedev will get all the way through here. I think he'll get through and play Berrettini in the quarterfinal and probably get through that and play through to a semi. And we'll obviously touch on the bottom part of this draw. But yeah, Medvedev seems to be the one in that part of the draw to beat.
Yep, Rublev also there as well. So that's going to be tough for Berrettini to get through in the fourth round. I'm looking forward to that matchup. Rublev making the quarters, I think, in 2017 at the US Open. The bottom quarter of the draw really excites me. Roberto Bautista Agut, again, probably should have beaten Djokovic in the Cincinnati semis. 7-6 in the third. That was an absolute heartbreaker. He's got what it takes to beat Novak on a hard court. He won their previous three on the surface before they met in the semis last week. So that could be interesting in itself. He'll play tennis Sandrin, enigmatic at his best. Vasek Pospisil against Philip Kohlschreiber in the opener is a really good, dangerous floater matchup between two unseeded guys. Milos Raonic, again, set up on Djokovic in the Cincinnati final. I don't think he's got the mental capacity anymore to go and win a slam. I think he's had his chances now. He's 0-10 against Djokovic. You know, if you can't beat him, at a best of three tournament, how are you going to do it at a Grand Slam and over best of 5 sets? And Djokovic killed Raonic in the quarters of the Australian Open this year, really destroyed him. So, look, I think he can do well, but not sure he'll win. Alex de Minaur, seeded 21st. Didn't play well in the singles, got smashed by Jan-Lennard Struff in Cincinnati, but he did win the doubles title with Pablo Carreño Busta. So that gives him the hit out that he wants, and it gives him the match practice. Yes, it's not as physical as what singles is, but you're hitting balls, and you're hitting balls under pressure. And that's what I like about de Minaur's result. He could play Ivo Karlovic or Richard Gasquet in the second round. What a matchup that is. They met for the first time 15 years ago in Hamburg in 2005. Karlovic probably hasn't aged at all since then. And Richard Gasquet's gone through a whole career. So brilliant stuff. I hope Karlovic does well. I love the big Croat. He's fantastic. Sam Querrey, also dangerous floater. Yannick Sinner versus Karen Khachanov in the first round as well. That's exciting. Felix Auger-Aliassime versus Andy Murray, round 2. That is exciting to say the least. And then Thiago Seyboth-Wild, also in this part of the draw with Dan Evans. Marin Cilic there as well. Cilic v. Thiem in the third round, if Thiem gets there. He didn't play well in Cincinnati at all, but former champion, the Australian Open and a 2-time French Open runner-up in round 3. That's got to be exciting, and we'll start with that prospect.
Yeah, it's a huge matchup if it does get to that. Look, I think Dominic Thiem is, one of the players to beat. I think form isn't one to look at with someone like Thiem who has had previous unbelievable results. So, Cilic is the same. He's played in Grand Slam finals. So these two guys are great athletes, regardless of the form they're coming in with. I think it's going to be a mouth-watering matchup to play a possibility of playing Andy Murray all the way through there. So I think that part of the draw is a very interesting one that we're going to look at pretty closely with Raonic, obviously having some good form, but previous photos of him on social media weren't doing him justice about his fitness. He had a few people making comment about him being overweight and not really prepared for the tournament, especially Fabio Fognini, who doesn't generally like to comment on the way people look. But, it could be quite interesting to see Raonic and Agut playing, and obviously Murray maybe getting through and playing a young gun like Felix Auger-Aliassime. So it's going to be a very hard quarter to predict, but wouldn't surprise me if Raonic went all the way through there. I think he's playing some good tennis. But like you said, is the 5 sets going to worry him, possibly with his physical side of the game?
Well, Fabio Fognini doesn't think he's going to... I think he probably thinks he weighs way too much to get through a 5-set match. You can't help but love Fabio. I wish he was there. I really do wish he was there. Oh, what a man. But the all-important picks, and I think I know who your top quarter winner is going to be, Mark. But who do you think is getting through to the quarters and semis?
Oh, look, as I said before, I think Medvedev is the one to beat on this part of the draw. Look, it wouldn't surprise me if one of, the bottom part of that 64 is really interesting because you've got Thiem, Cilic, Murray, Raonic, Agut, and Felix Auger-Aliassime, who I think are probably the ones to get all the way through somewhere there. And it's going to be interesting to see because who knows how they're all going to fare in terms of the way they're prepared. And I'm very hard. I don't think this is an easy one to predict. Look, if I'm a betting man, I would say it'd be either Cilic or Thiem to get right the way through. But at the end of the day, I think this side of the draw, Medvedev in the bottom half is going to get through and play Djokovic in the final. And I would probably say Djokovic is the one to beat.
Yep, I agree. And I think, I agree with the final anyway. I've got Djokovic and Tsitsipas getting through to the semis. And I've got Denis Shapovalov making his first Grand Slam quarterfinal as well. I reckon he's going to do quite well. And yeah, look, I'm not sure about Zverev. I've got him making it to the quarters at the moment. Don't know if he will, but we'll see. The bottom half of the draw, I've got, who did I have here? I've got Rublev v. Medvedev in the quarters. And then the bottom section, the bottom quarter, I've got Bautista Agut against Andy Murray in the quarters there. So I reckon RBA will get through to another semi and he'll take on Medvedev. Medvedev will win that. Djokovic will beat Tsitsipas. But you know what? I'm going the Russian king to get through for his first Grand Slam final or title. And I reckon he's going to win it. The pain of losing last year and and I think everyone warmed to him in that US Open last year when he was taunting the American crowd. It was the most hilarious thing I've ever seen when he just kept saying they're booing him. And he's like, your energy is what's getting me through. So keep going. There's no crowd this year, but fingers crossed he can replicate what he did. And he's an unbelievable talent. And I love his humility. I love his humor. And fingers crossed we can see him, see a new name etched onto a Grand Slam trophy in 2020. But it makes for a fascinating tournament, Mark, and I'm really excited for it.
It does, and Medvedev plays his best tennis when his back's against the wall. Maybe his coach is going to record crowd booing, put it in the stands, and get him motivated. It's probably something I would do.
Yeah, or just boo him himself.
Yeah, exactly. His coach might boo him. We'll see how we go. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting tournament. There is no way to really know what's going to happen in a tournament like this. We've never seen situations leading up to a Grand Slam event like we have. No real lead-ups apart from last week. And, you know, players just haven't had time to find form. There's been not a lot of matches, so players won't be match hard. There'll be probably a lot of cramping going on in that fifth set if players haven't been able to replicate those sort of situations and where they're at. So, Val, who knows? Get a blanket, throw it over the top of all these players, and let's see what comes out. But I'm really excited to share this next couple of weeks with you. And, you know, every day we'll dissect the news, we'll dissect the results and see what's happening in the game. And I'll hopefully be able to take the viewers inside the minds of the players and the coaches and see what we can come up with.
Likewise, mate. I'm so excited to hear your insights, and I've got an abundance of questions that I want to ask you about Grand Slam tournaments, so you are going to get inundated. Remember, if you want to comment your questions. We'll try and reply to as many as we can on the show over the next 2 weeks. It's going to be really exciting. If you've got anything to ask Marc about tennis, about coaching, about philosophies, about how to come out of a certain situation at a Grand Slam, please respond in the comments. We'll do our best to respond. If you want to ask me anything, not that I know anything about what Marc's talking about because he's just peerless when it comes to this, ask me. I'll try and answer it. We'll see how we go. But no, remember, you can follow The Tennis Menu on Instagram at The Tennis Menu. Same on Twitter and Facebook. Please subscribe. Please follow. Please like. And remember, tennismenu.com. Subscribe to a package. Do it. If you want any knowledge of how to get your game to where it should be, or any news or any coaching philosophy pieces, or how to be a high-performance coach, Marc writes some amazing pieces. So please get around them. They are absolutely fantastic. Marc Sophoulis, I'm really looking forward to the next 2 weeks, mate.
Can't wait. Thanks so much, Val, for obviously hosting. You're an amazing host. And check out his podcast also, Breakpoint Podcast. It's a phenomenal tennis, up-to-date knowledge and information. So keep it on track. Keep listening. Hopefully we can provide you with the latest in the US Open right across the next 2 weeks.
This is going to be an absolutely fantastic 2 weeks. Marc Sophoulis, thank you very much.
Thanks, Val.
I've been Val Febbo. Enjoy your day, tennis fans. Bring on the US Open.